Erev Tov, and we're the week of Parshas Chaye Sora, the week of the life of Sora, and we read about the first shidduch in history and the first shlichus. We're all emissaries of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach, and the Rebbe says all the Jewish nation are emissaries of the Holy One, blessed be He, the Hakadosh Baruch Hu, and we should fulfill our mission in the most complete manner and bring the revelation of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach immediately now. In the honor of this past Shabbos, that was the birthday of the Rebbe Rebbe Shalom Dovber of Lubavitcher, the 20th of Mar Cheshvan in the Hebrew calendar. So we'll be giving over a miracle story of the Rebbe Rashab, and also a story which occurred in this past month in the midst of the war, at the beginning of the war, that Israel is battling against our enemies in Gaza, in the north, and in Lebanon against the Hezbollah, and in Yemen against the Hittites, the Houthis, as they call themselves, the Hittites, that were kicked out of Israel in the times of Yeshua, and against the Iranians. The Iranians, they have their origin from King Achashverosh. Nevertheless, when we speak about the story of with the Rebbe Rashab, they were Hasidim that were traveling to Lubavitch and to the Rebbe, and as it was the custom, and it still is, when Hasidim get together, they're traveling on the train, so they daven Shacharis, and right after Shacharis, so they got together to make a farbrengen. They said l'chaim. They had l'chaim on them, and after the l'chaim, they started to sing a nigun from the other compartment of the train. There was a young man that saw the Hasidim and heard them singing, and he got up from his place and went over to sit with the Hasidim. And when he asked them if they are Lubavitcher Hasidim, so they answered yes, confirmative, and he asked if they're traveling to the Rebbe, to Lubavitch, and they said definitely. He said, allow me to tell you a story of the Rebbe Rashab, of the Rebbe that you're going to visit right now. Amongst these Hasidim, there was a Hasid called Rav Shmuel Berliner, and apparently the story was given over from Rav Shmuel. So this younger man, who wasn't a Lubavitcher Chassid, he told them that he was brought up in a town called Dvinsk, and when his time came, so he got married to his wife, and they were looking for parnasa, and in the neighboring town there was a factory for matches, manufactured matches, and he was offered a job there. I think he was the buchhalter, he was the accountant. Anyway, he says that he worked there for many years, and he was very happy. They had a wonderful parnasa, until one day, where the match factory burnt down. It burnt down, and that was it. All the people that worked there lost their parnasa, including him. Being that at that time his wife took ill, and she was not able to go out to work, he had no other brera, and he had no other choice but to go back to his hometown of Dvinsk, nearby, and to live by his parents, and to try to find the parnasa. When he was in Dvinsk, So Shabbos came, and he sat in shul, and they were Lubavitcher Hasidim, and they were in the middle of a Farbrengen, and they saw that he was not in the best of moods, and he told them his story, and they said, "Listen, you have to go to the Rebbe. You have to go and you have to receive counsel by the Rebbe Rashab." He said, "No, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a chassid. It's not my way of doing things." But they applied pressure, and they gave him another l'chaim until he finally agreed that he would go to the Rebbe Rashab to receive a counsel, a blessing, and advice. Went to Lubavitch, and when he was allowed in for a private audience, the Yechidus by the Rebbe Rashab, he told the Rebbe Rashab his story, and then the Rebbe Rashab looks at him, and he's quiet for a certain period of time, and then he opens his eyes and he says, "Younger man, what I would suggest is that you go to the town of Kovna, and there in the town of Kovna, your wife would be able to sit comfortably at home and sew hats, and you'll open up a hat store, a hat shop, and you will sell the hats." The younger man looks at the Rebbe Rashab and he says, but Rebbe, I don't understand. If you're telling me to open up a hat store to sell hats, and my wife's going to sell hats, why do I have to go all the way to Kovna? I can do the same in Dvinsk, and here in Dvinsk, where it's my family's town. I have many friends. I have connections. It would be much more beneficial if I open up the shop in Dvinsk. And the Rebbe Rashab again closes his eyes and then opens his eyes and looks at the younger man. He says, "Younger man, my advice and my suggestion would be that you go to Kovna, and there in Kovna, you open up a hat shop." And exactly what he told him, his wife will sit down and sew hats, and he'll sell the hats. He didn't understand, but for some reason, he took the words of the Rebbe as the bottom line and exactly what he's going to be doing. He went and he traveled to Kovna with his wife, and in Kovna he's going down the main street, and he's looking around for a store to open up his hat shop, and he's going into one store, into another store, and every single place they were asking unbelievable prices to rent a shop. And he keeps on walking, and he's getting very discouraged, to the point that they were thinking about just getting back on the train and going back home. But then he turns off the main street onto one of the side streets connecting, and he saw a shop. He looked into the shop. It didn't look very welcoming, but he went into the shop and he asked the person there how much they want to rent the shop, and they gave him a cheaper price, and he said, "Fine, I'll take it." He rented the shop, and his wife that week sat down to sew hats, and the following week he put the hats in the showcase in the shop, and he sat behind the counter, and he waited. Sunday goes by, Monday goes by, Tuesday goes by, and he's really broken. He's really broken. And not enough that he went all the way to Kovna, and he opened up a shop that he doesn't understand what he's doing in this shop, and he's paying top dollar. I mean, not as much as he would have had to pay on the main street, but he's still paying a lot of money. And not only was there no person that walked into the shop, but there wasn't even a person that walked by to look inside the display to see what he has to offer. Comes Wednesday, and he's sitting there behind the counter, and he starts remembering what a wonderful life he had in the factory, for the matches factory, and how everything was fine, and his wife and he and his wife were healthy and well, and everything was going wonderful. And here he's literally a golus within a golus. And as he's thinking all these thoughts going through his mind, he breaks down in tears and he starts crying and wailing and crying like a baby. After he stopped crying, he went and he washed his face, dried himself with a towel, and he sat himself back behind the counter. As he's looking out in the street to the street, he sees there's a beautiful chariot that arrives and parks right in front of his shop. Out comes a very dignified looking land baron, Poritz, and he walks up to the door and walks into the shop, and he says, "Is this your shop?" He says, "Yes, and can I buy this hat?" The person was just so amazed that there's someone even asking him to buy something, let alone that he seriously wants to buy a hat. So he thought of a very low price that he could give him, a price that he wouldn't be able to refuse. He told him the price, and he said, "Here, the hat's yours." The land baron pays the money, puts the hat on the side, and he looks at the shop owner, and he says, "Tell me, why are your eyes red?" The shop owner says, "No, it's nothing. It's nothing to worry about." He says, "No, your face looks like you were crying for a long time, and you're very worried about something. Listen, please, if you may, share with me what's going on." And he tried to argue out of it, but the land baron wouldn't let him, and he went and he told the land baron his entire story. Then the land baron, after listening, he says, "You have experience in a factory that manufactured matches?" He says, "Experience? I was the accountant. I don't have any experience with matches." So he says, "Makes no difference." And then he says, "Your Rebbe, he is a very holy man, and he knew exactly where he was sending you." So the shop owner says, "Yeah? I mean, what do you mean?" And he explains, "I have a brother," the land baron says, "and my brother lives in Kiev. And there in Kiev, he has a factory." "Oh, yeah? Yeah. What does the manufacturer in his factory?" "He manufactures matches." He says, "Wow, what a coincidence." He says, No coincidence. Your rabbi is connected from above." He says, "Well, what can I do?" So he says, "Well, in this factory, they have been dealing now for a few months with a major problem. One of the central machines in the factory for the manufacturing of the matches broke down. And my brother looked high and low. He brought the best technicians, and no one was able to help him." So the shop owner says, "Well, what am I supposed to do?" He says, "What do you mean, what are you supposed to do? You have experience working in a factory that manufactures matches. You're going to go and you're going to fix my brother's machine." He says, "What are you talking about? I have no experience. I'm not an engineer. I'm a buchhalter. I'm a bookkeeper." He says, "Doesn't make a difference. I'm going to write a recommendation. I'm going to give you a letter of recommendation that you should give to my brother, and I'm sure that you will be able to go and to fix the machine that broke down." And then he put his hand into his pocket. He took out a few adumim, gold coins. That was red gold in Russia then. And he gave him so that he'll be able to go and to have money for the transportation to Kiev. And he says, may you be blessed." And the guy and the land baron turns around, takes his hat, and walks out of the shop. The shopkeeper was totally shocked. He was amazed. He couldn't believe his eyes or his ears. But he has the money, and and he has the letter of recommendation, and he even has the blessing of the brother that he's good. So he decided, okay, now everything's from heaven, everything comes from above. And with Kabbalah soul, with the acceptance of the yoke of Hashem on the Rebbe's blessing, that he saw that one thing led to the next, he got on the train and he traveled to Kovna. When he arrived in Kovna, so the land baron's brother was there, just as he said, and he was received for a meeting, and the brother says, listen, if you manage to fix this machine, that we've been losing money now, every month that goes by, every week that goes by, we're losing a lot of money. So first of all, for fixing the machine, I'll be willing to pay you 500 ruble, which was like a small fortune in those days, 500 gold pieces. And second of all, I'll take you and give you a very comfortable job position here in the company, in the factory, and you'll be set for life. The shopkeeper, who used to be the accountant in the match factory, selling hats in this new shop that he was told to rent, he says, what do I have to lose? He accepts the offer. He goes and he says, I went and I looked up and down, right and left, inside and out. I turned the machine, and I was there for 1, 2, 3 days. 3 days I was investigating what's going on with this machine. And finally, I succeeded, with Hashem's help, to fix the machine. And when he fixed the machine, the brother backed up his words, every single word that he said. He gave him first the 500 ruble, and then he gave him the position, a very comfortable managing position in the company, in the factory. And that's where he said that he's been and working till now. And now he's on his way to the Rebbe Rashab, to the Rebbe Shalom Dovber, to be able to go and to give him his personal thanks for the blessing that and the advice that he gave him. So what do we learn from this incredible story? We learn something very simple, that when we're told and we're given an instruction, when a Rebbe comes and tells us what to do, when the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach tells us that the Derech HaYeshora, the direct way, the straight way to bring Mashiach and the revelation of Mashiach immediately now is to sit and to study all those concepts in the Torah, and the Torah Shebechtav, Torah Sheba'al Peh, in the Medrash, in the Kabbalah, and in the Likutei Sichos of the Rebbe. The Rebbe specifically writes the Likutei Sichos, and the Rebbe is the only Rebbe that has such a book called Likutei Sichos. This is the way to bring Mashiach. So then we shouldn't start thinking, and we shouldn't start having any second thoughts or second guesses about the matter. We should just do what we're told, and Be'ezras Hashem, immediately now, we'll have the revelation of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach on a good and revealed basis immediately now. We promised also one short story in actuality, what's going on, and this is a story from the beginning of the war, Rahman al-Islam, this terrible war that we're fighting, this terrible battle. In the Otef Aza, in the settlements right on the borderline with Gaza. So as we know, there was the terrible attack that happened on Simchas Torah, on Shabbos Simchas Torah, and in one of these settlements there was a young boy, and it was Shabbos morning, and he tells of the fact that he went out of his house and he started to have an early morning walk, and he says it was around like 6 o'clock in the morning. And then he heard the the I guess some people didn't notice that it's 8 o'clock, and some people are joining now at 8:45, but it's Baruch Hashem, it's good, it's good. So nevertheless, he heard these sirens, but never, despite the sirens, this was something that he was used to. Hashem should watch over us. People should never get used to these type of things, but he knew that there's sirens. And then all of a sudden, as he's hearing the sirens, he sees hordes. He sees hordes of terrorists that are coming to the gate, and they're trying to get in. So he runs to the closest home that was nearby. This was the head of the person who was the head of the security in the settlement, and he tells him what he saw. And the head of the security, he takes this boy. His name is Ariel Zohar. Ariel Zohar. He takes the boy and he puts him in the mamad, in the security room in his home, and he goes out to see what's going on and to try to organize protection. Unfortunately, the head of the security didn't make it back alive to be able to greet the young boy Ariel. But Ariel was collected by soldiers, and unfortunately, it was a terrible atrocity. His parents, his mother, his father, all his siblings were massacred, Rahman litzlan. And they asked him if he has any relatives, and he says yes, he has a grandfather in Rishon LeZion. So they transported Ariel to Rishon LeZion by his grandfather. And while he was there, so the soldiers asked the boy, if there's anything that they can bring him, if there's anything that they can arrange in order to make him more comfortable. The boy thought for 1 minute, and he says to the soldiers, listen, it's 2 weeks now before his bar mitzvah. He was 12 or 13 minus 2 weeks. 2 weeks now before his bar mitzvah. And there's one thing that he really felt that he needed. They asked him, what? So he said, there's a pair of tefillin. And this is a boy that wasn't, at least at that point, he wasn't observant yet. He tells them, this pair of tefillin is in his home, back in the settlement. And it's a pair of tefillin that his father was going to give him as a present in honor of the bar mitzvah. Now, this was not just a regular pair of tefillin, because his father, Ariel's father, received it from his father, from his grandfather, for his bar mitzvah. And his grandfather received it from his great-grandfather in honor of his bar mitzvah. And his great-grandfather was a person that was a Holocaust survivor. And so this is what he asked for, if it would be possible. And the soldiers took his request with very great sincerity, and they made sure to get back to the settlement when it was already semi-safe to go in. And they went into his home and they found the tefillin, and they brought this young Ariel Zohar the tefillin of his great-grandfather. And then his grandfather, in other words, the grandfather that he was staying by in Rishon LeZion, he tells the soldiers how amazing this is, because these people, these animals that came in and massacred the entire family, they weren't able to go and to disconnect his grandson from his Judaism. They tried it. They tried it with his father, the grandfather telling about his father that was the Holocaust survivor, how the Nazis, the Germans, Yimach Shmam v'Zichram, tried to disconnect his grandfather, his father from Judaism, and they weren't successful. And he passed on the tefillin from one son to the next son. And these animals and these murderers, these bloodthirsty murderers, weren't able to disconnect his grandson, his own grandson, Ariel, from his Judaism either. And we should only merit from now on to be able to celebrate bar mitzvahs and weddings and bris milas and every single great celebration leading immediately to the celebration of the Seudas Mashiach, the Mashiach Seuda in the third and the eternal Beis Hamikdash, with the true and the Geula HaMitzvah Shlema, the true and the complete Geula, with the revelation of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach, and this should be Teichef Umiyad Mamish Mamish Mamish. Yichi Adonenu Moreno V'Rabbeinu HaMelech HaMoshiach Chai V'Kayim Le'olam Voed. Amen.